put together, and the final pieces were put together by Brian Hope, a steam engineer from York, who did a job of gathering it all together for Terry. And here we've got it in our fabulous display. And then following on, we've got an engine built in the 1920s, the lovely Fowler of the Hanks family, here at our show. This was at the Aberford Rally that I was telling you about 2 weeks ago, because it was one of those engines that actually took part in the Aberford Rally. Fine Fowler, made at Leeds, worked in Southwest and in Oxfordshire for some of its years of its life, before ending up near Southampton. It's had a new firebox fitted, which is the thing that wears away on these engines more than anything. But boilers and other things are also replaced. So when you go to rebuild an engine of that nature, you're going to be spending 25, 30, 35 pounds and lots of labour involved in it. But steamrollers in Kent lasted working, and even in the rallies that we had at Paddock Wood from 57 to 59, there was a class 4 steamrollers, and it was estimated that there were 20 still working in Kent up until 1963. We've got our Norman bikes coming around here from the 40s and the 50s, being cycled round on this ground. Our Land Army girls are in front of our 1945 to 1951 Fordson E27M. We're celebrating 80 years of this type of tractor that was made at Dagenham. It was first assembled, the type, in March of 1945. It has basically the Fordson N engine in it, and it has a new transmission back end. And that back end was still being used right through until 1964. And even people who go tractor pulling, which the Kent Show has tried a few times over the years, or the Showground has, never been very successful. Lots of people still do tractor pulling using Fordson motors, E1Os. The back end of this type of blue bottle, which for the 230,000 actually made in Korea manufacture, has been fitted with portable polymer. Tractor at this period of time, and it's cost $500,000 were made. But the blue bottle, as the South Africans always used to call the E27M, it's done fabulous things, and there was a tremendous amount of them in preservation. In 2005, we had at the Beaver Castle Rally in May that year a record, a Guinness Book of Records of 71 of them together. Well, we had an event called Tractor Fest, not the one at Bicton, but the one at Newby Hall in Ripon, where 1,300 tractors gathered together the second weekend in June. And besides that, there's 300 stationary engines, 187 commercial vehicles, many other things on a very, very fine site. It's well worth, if you want a few days in the north, why not go to Newby Hall near Harrogate next year? Because there, this year, they had over 98 of the E27Ns on display, and that set a new record following on from the one as I described in 2005. And then we go to the continent, we go to Scandinavia, and this is our Bollinger Munchel tractor. Bollinger and Munchel were manufacturers of big stationary engines, particularly for ships and boats and things. And then they ventured into making a tractor which looked very much like a gas engine Ford in 1909. From those early ventures, they gradually made more and more tractors in the 20s and 30s. At their works at Eskilstuna. You can actually go to Eskilstuna and stay in the old factory, which is now a hotel, right next to the museum, not very far from the old Volvo works. But of course, with the ownership of the Bollinger Munchel company, Volvo took them over in 1959, and there again they changed the green livery to the red. Don't forget that Volvo are made at Gothenburg, which is at the bottom end of Sweden. Eskilstuna is halfway up the country, not very far from the capital, only 40 minutes from the capital. And this, of course, is a Bison tractor in their range that they made in the early 60s. Has a 56 horsepower diesel engine, a very fine machine, typical of what you would be buying from Sweden. Sweden up to 1939 was a Fordson country. More Fordsons were sold there than anything else. And on top of that, France took a lot of these countries. Luxembourg and Holland particularly like Volvo tractors. But in this country, we never had any of these sold over here. This is a fine preservation example that you can see here, and winner of multiple awards at various shows, including Tractor World, which of course is the largest indoor tractor show for old machinery that you will find, that takes place the last weekend in February at Malvern in Worcestershire. I set the show up in 2001 and it still continues today. It has a huge array of exhibition stands, not only for tractors but also for miniatures, models, a massive sale conducted by HJQ, and it has over 200 trade stands. We keep the prices low so we get more trade stands and more people come from all over Europe, particularly from Ireland, where they buy their parts and various other things from the show. And then moving on further, we come to Phil Tassell, who comes from near Headcorn in Kent. This is the second year this tractor has been here. It was only just completed in time for this show last year. It's a Massey Ferguson 1200. This is a flexible tractor. When the agricultural shows in their high days of holidays here at the County Showground, you would have seen one of these Barton Road Manchester-built machines. It has a Perkins engine underneath the bonnet. It's a flexible tractor. The driver will show you as he turns. Phil's a keen lover of Massey Ferguson, and this is one that he's restored to a high standard with other people's help. In fact, this tractor is featured in classic Massey Ferguson enthusiastic like Edit, which comes out every other month, and we've had a series on it in great detail, thanks to Phil supplying all the people. A wonderful restoration. The interior is well worth looking at as well. And we follow that on. It wasn't really a significant tractor. They made the 1250 introduced in the early 70s, but it was revolutionary for its time. Went on to the 1250, then the 1500. To purchase one of these now in preservation, and I'm serious about what I'm going to tell you, that they're worth over £50,000. And then we follow it on by our Bedford OAX. This is a Second World War Bedford that's been civilianised. That means that matte green paint has been taken off of it, and it's got a new career commercially and not with the War Department. These types of Arctic units were fitted with a Scammell coupling from Watford, and on top of that would have behind them the Queen Mary trailer. The Queen Mary trailer was specially designed by casters in the Anna Valley near Andover, which of course is sadly just another housing estate today. In fact, the works used to have a big river going down the centre of it. Now, it wasn't that big, but it was at least 2 foot wide right through the works. Remembering that a lot of these steam manufacturers were very religious. A lot of them were Quakers, very forward thinkers, and of course the Tasker family were also very religious in their beliefs, which not everybody liked at the time. But they were a good company that made lots of steam engines, trailers, and thanks to the William Fuller family, they carried on developing after the business had basically got bust in 1927. William Fuller's father took the company over and they developed trailers gradually, and by 1934 they were one of the leading manufacturers making trailers for all different types of vehicles in the UK. In fact, William Fuller created a museum of steam vehicles that the company had made, from the steamrollers to the tractors. He ended up with about 28 of them in his museum that was sold off in 1968. And if you want to go and see some of that collection, well, you have to go to Milestones Museum in Basingstoke, the Rural Life Museum of Hampshire. It is well worth a trip. It's fantastic. The way the dioramas, the settings, scenes, and it takes you right back to all the earlier times of machinery.